There are times, and maybe once in a while it's kind of obvious, that the minister doesn't really know what to say. I'm like you have feelings, lots of stuff that's going through your heart and soul, but how do you put what you feel into words? It was 45 years ago. You ever wonder where the time goes? Sometimes it seems to go so fast. And yet now, depending on what's going on in your life, maybe time is moving too slow. Because I know selfishly, I would like my life and my family's life and the church's life to get back to normal as quickly as possible, but I don't know when or if that's going to happen. But he was in my very first confirmation class, and that was way back in 1974 and 75 when Charter Hall was our sanctuary, it was our meeting room, it was where we had Sunday school. And back then, I think I was maybe a little more religious back then, that there were 8 or 9 kids in my confirmation class, and before they got confirmed, we had them meet with the church council. And we were all sitting around a table at the back of Charter Hall. And we asked each one of the confirmation kids, and I think they were freshmen in high school. We said, who is your favorite biblical figure? And we went around the room, and the last person was Jim, and he said, my favorite biblical figure is Doubting Thomas. And, well, he was very emphatic about that. And we talked, I don't know exactly what he said, but something to the effect that Thomas had the courage to doubt. He was honest about his doubts about his faith. And that's what kind of inspired and stuck with Jim. I think about that because every year Jim calls me and says, hey, Don, happy Doubting Thomas Sunday. Because he's the one that made me think about that. But I think about doubting. My guess is that all of us have our doubts. I remember when I was a senior in high school, and that's when I first thought about becoming a minister. And I was having some doubts about whether that's a good idea, about God, and so I wanted to talk to my pastor, and so I made an appointment. And my pastor was an older guy, but actually he was not as old as I am now, but then he was older. And it wasn't like here, you walk in the front door and I'm sitting at my desk, you come in, and you say, hey, Don, what's happening? With Pastor Albert, you made an appointment. And you had to get through his secretary to get to his office. And I went there and I sat down and he was sitting at his desk. And he would wear a flannel shirt with the 2 pockets with flips on them. And he was sitting at his desk in his flannel shirt smoking his pipe. And I said, Pastor, I just wanted to talk to you about some of the doubts I'm having about my faith and about whether or not I should be a minister. And I talked to him, and he looked at me. And he said, Don, you don't have to be afraid to doubt. It's a part of all of us. And then he said something that I'll never forget. He said, Don, doubting is not the opposite of faith. Doubting is a consequence of the risk of faith. You know, when you have passion about something, whether it's your career or God or a good friend, when you live life with kind of an inner gusto, there are times when you're going to kind of doubt, because people that live with passion, people that live kind of on the edge, also once in a while have to step back and look, and maybe doubting is okay because it makes you a little more human and a little more real. You know, life as we know it, especially now, can be fickle, it can be fragile, unpredictable, incredibly unfair. You know, on the other hand, we see stories and witness people responding to this crisis with incredible power and courage and generosity. You know, little snippets, like I was watching the news before I came here this morning, and they were talking about Chinatown in Chicago. I mean, Chinatown is like a desert. I mean, when you've been there, it's restaurant after restaurant after restaurant after restaurant, and it's just, there's hardly anybody walking the streets. And I guess there are like 3 restaurant owners who have been doing no business at all, a little bit of carry out, and they decided to band together because, we got this food. And yeah, we're going broke. And they decided, something, from now until the pandemic is over, we're going to take this food and we're going to cook it and we're going to package it, and every day we're going to give it to our first responders. That's the least we can do. And here's these owners that have literally no money and all this food, and they're just giving and giving and giving out of the poverty of who they are because that's what they feel called to do. And I thought to myself, that requires a lot of courage. And then yesterday, a couple that I married years ago, they're very quiet members. They're just generous and loyal. And they came to, and I was talking to them, and I say, Denise, I can't even remember, what do you do for a living? And she said, I'm just a secretary. And I said, wait a minute. What do you mean, just a secretary? You secretaries run the world. Never say that. And then Bill, and I know what he does, he's the head maintenance guy at one of our local high schools. And he wanted to show all the workers, because they come in every day, and they take care of the building. And he said, Don, I know how you like T-shirts. So I decided to give all the custodians, all the people that are working during this, a T-shirt, and it says on it, more than essential. Not just essential, but more than essential. And I thought to myself, what a beautiful way to express to people that go to work every day how much you appreciate it. But I thought about the word essential. In a real and spiritual sense, every one of you, every one of us is essential. At the end of a long day, when you go into a coffee shop for some coffee and dessert, or you bring your family out to dinner, and a server comes to your table and treats you with respect and dignity, and if something isn't right, he or she takes it back and brings it back with a smile on his or her face, that server is essential because they treat you with respect. If the nanny comes to your house and you leave for work and you entrust your son or daughter to that nanny is essential because that nanny is taking care of the most important person in your life. If you own a beauty salon, a hair salon, and every couple of months you open the doors so the disabled adults from St. Coletta's can come and get a haircut for free, and you do that, you're essential. The problem is right now, you may be unemployed. Every one of us, whether you're working or not working, whether you're broke or not broke, you are essential, you have purpose, and you have a place in God's kingdom. And in times like this, it's easy to lose your sense of essentialness. Maybe it's easy to lose that inner confidence that drives you every day, and you can begin to doubt yourself, your place, and maybe even God. I hope you know, and this just gives me makes me feel something inside. I hope you know that you matter. You matter to a lot of people, and nothing can ever take that away. I can be so selfish sometimes. I come in here in the morning on Sunday, and I want to make sure everything is right. And I don't have to worry about it because these guys take care of everything. But I want to make sure it's a good show, and then I look at the prayer book, and I look at the cross, and I look at the cup of hope, and I realize glitches, no glitches, no matter what. The only reason we are here together this morning is to reach out and to embrace the incredible power of the shared spirit that we have together. That's why we do this. It's the only reason. And when God's spirit and your spirit collide in that spiritual collision, no matter what, God gets us through. So grateful for each one of you. God bless you, and let's share the creed together.